Thanks for joining us again on our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We did something different yesterday in our Route 66 travels through the biblical books of the Bible. We've been doing every time one book a day on our 5-minute broadcast, and what we're giving you a key verse and also a key description or title for each of the books. We did something different yesterday in 1 Kings. We did not complete our travels. We kind of pulled over. We had a cup of coffee or whatever, and we just kind of stretched our legs, and we're coming back to 1 Kings. We won't do that very often in our studies, but once in a while, we'll take the time to do something like that. So we're going to do it today, and that's because 1 Kings is a very interesting book, and our key word was compromise. Solomon had taken over the throne of David. Originally, he led it very well. He was the wisest man on earth because God had given him that kind of wisdom. Israel was doing wonderfully well in every aspect, economically, politically, militarily, spiritually. They were probably the highest point in all of Israel's history. But as we saw last time, Solomon himself compromised. He began to marry many women from many different nations, probably trying to bring them together politically and militarily, but it backfired. And Solomon began to compromise his own walk with God, so that ultimately he was worshiping other gods. That's a real dilemma for us. How can this man who wrote 3 books of the Bible, the Song of Solomon, Proverbs, and Ecclesiastes, how can he be a man who is actually worshiping not only God, but other gods as well? And we don't have a real answer to that, except perhaps in his own confused state, this man of great wisdom is just plain compromising his walk with God. But we do have one man in this book who stands out as one who really does not compromise. There's a few others, but one really stands out, and that is the man Elijah. In chapter 17, 18, or 16, 17, 18, 19, Elijah stands up as an uncompromising person, if you ever met one. He's always been one of my favorite characters of Scripture. We find him challenging the king of Israel, Ahab, and his wicked wife Jezebel. He stands against them. He will not compromise. He will not flee from them. He tells them the truth. And then we have in chapter 18 this great contest that Elijah has between him and the prophets of Baal. Ahab and his wife were worshipers of false deities, and especially Baal. And they had all these prophets who were leading the way. Now remember, this is Israel, who are supposed to be following Jehovah God and worshiping Him. But they're worshiping the Baals, the deities, the mythological deities of the land that they had entered into many years before. But Elijah will have nothing to do with it. He calls for a contest. He says, let's get together. Let's build some altars, put water on the altars. Whichever God brings fire down on those altars and starts the sacrifice, that's God, and the other deities are not God. So he knows who's God, so he has no problem. The prophets of Baal try their best, but they fail. They cannot get their mythological God to start a fire. Elijah has no such problem with that at all, and ultimately God sends down fire and starts the fire on the altar. But the big issue is this. Elijah goes to the people of Israel, and he turns to them. And he says in chapter 18 to these people, verse 21 in particular, he says, just before he has the Lord bring fire down on the altar, he says, how long will you hesitate between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. But the people did not answer him a word. The people were intimidated probably by Jezebel and Ahab and their armies. They wouldn't say anything, but what a perfect line in the sand was drawn. If Baal is God, worship him. Go for it. If Jehovah is God, worship him. Why do you hesitate between 2 opinions? Why do you compromise? Ultimately, God would bring fire down, and for just a very short period of time, the people turned back to the Lord. It didn't last long. But it didn't matter as far as Elijah was concerned. He followed God. Now, we do know he will have some struggles after this, but he is a man who will not compromise, a man who stands for the Lord. So our key word is compromise, but our key verse is verse 21 of chapter 18, just a portion of it. And here it is. How long will you hesitate between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. That's our key verse. If the Lord is God, follow him. If not, follow something else. That's God's challenge to all of us at all times. If the Lord is God, follow him. If not, don't follow him. Elijah proved to the people that he was God, that the Lord was God, and they should have followed him, but they did not. But Elijah did. You and I can make that same choice. You have a wonderful day in the Lord.